Mother Nature loves fire. We don't love it so much, but Mother Nature does.
It's more culturally and ecologically impactful than just wildfire suppression.
What's your lighter? It gets emotional too. Believe me, I wanted to cry down there when I was talking. It's something special. Something real special.
I have two of my sons out here, multiple cousins, uncles, aunts. No matter the patch on your sleeve, no matter the tribe you're from, no matter the color of your skin, any of that, the practice itself is the same.
It's changed our relationship to the forest. I feel like we learned a lot about trees. Never enough.
Our ancestors used to do this yearly and have all of our traditional territory looking like a park, and then after contact, land management, the Forest Service's way of managing a forest wasn't really managing the forest, as we could see.
Fire is a natural process. It's been on the landscape forever, and indigenous and native peoples have used fire for their own benefit, burning to clear land and brush and harvest resources. So Forest Service formed, it started with this policy of suppress all fires. And so modern fire suppression really focused on eliminating fire from the landscape. And what that led to was an overabundance of growth in the forest. They're overcrowded and they're very dense and choked. And over the past decade, we've seen wildfires grow in size and intensity and severity and become more destructive. And so people have become more fire aware. And there's been an increase in the movement to bring back fire in a healthy and safe manner to the landscape. So we're seeing an increase in the use of prescribed fire to benefit the land, to help landowners remove fuel and brush and make the landscape once again fire resilient and resistant as it once was. And that's happened very recently, and I'm honored to be a part of it. I'm Dallas Kohler. I work for the Butte County Resource Conservation District, and I also coordinate the Butte County Prescribed Burn Association. And the Prescribed Burn Association is a collective community of volunteers, landowners who help each other utilize prescribed fire safely and effectively. And I help coordinate those efforts and teach people how to use fire the right way, ideally.
It's a 7-acre plot. And it's a mix of being terrified living here in the summer. Our bags are always packed. We have family photos that are permanently in boxes at someone else's house down in Chico, so we never look at them. It's such a different way of living. And it's beautiful, but it comes with its great risks. It's probably not the wisest place to be, so we all practice clearing and do as much as we can, all the time. But there's that fire hanging overhead. It's getting to be quite the nail biter, worse and worse.
So there's several types of prescribed fire we use in the PBA. Primarily, we either do broadcast or underburn, and that would be where we make a plan along an entire piece of property. We would clear out any hazardous fuels, dead trees, things like that, and we would construct hand line or fire line around the border or use existing roads and driveways, and then we would actually carry fire through the entire property using either drip torches or setting a small fire and using pitchforks and spreading them around, which is what we do a lot with the PBA. We try to keep these burns pretty mellow. The other one we use are what you're seeing today, which is a pile burn. And that's just gathering up the needles, leaves, dead trees, small shrubs, brush, anything the landowner is removing, and we're putting it in a pile and then setting it on fire. So when you're building a pile, the first thing is you don't want it to be underneath anything. You don't want to have it directly under a tree. You want it to be outside. It's drip length, where the limbs extend to. You want it to be beyond that, because the last thing we want to do is catch a tree on fire, right? That'd be the exact opposite of what we're going for. So we want to place it outside a tree's drip length, farther away from structures. You want to scrape 2, 3, 4 feet around the pile to bare mineral soil so it can't creep away and escape. You also want it to be on more of a flat surface. We don't want to build it on steep hills. Sometimes that's unavoidable, but ideally we wouldn't put it on a steep hill so we don't have rolling, burning material coming down. If you don't have any other options, you can certainly put it on a slope and make sure you dig a small trench beneath it to capture that material. We've got a pile here. It's on a little bit of a slope, as you can see, but there's no overhanging canopy or no danger to it. We've scraped around it, and ideally when you're constructing a pile, you want the main innards of it to be the kindling and the tinder, your smaller fuels, as dry as possible. And we make a good pile, no bigger than 4 by 4 by 4 feet of those needles and smaller sticks and kindling, and then we pile our heavier, drier fuels on top of that. Right now, because these landowners have had a lot of trees come down in the recent storms, we're burning a lot more green material than I would say is ideal, but we've been able to make our piles hot enough that it is consuming it. But ideally it would be as dry as possible.
The prescribed burn group, they're angels. I mean, they wrote an email that said, "Can we help you pile and burn?" We went, "Are you kidding?" And they're here today. There's about 7 or 8 people doing an incredible job. We're only going to work for 4 hours, but that's the equivalent of like 28 hours of just my husband and I. And then we're going to go and help some other properties. So that's the beauty of it, is just showing up and being in the neighborhood and helping each other out. And the camaraderie is really incredible. We're very moved by it, actually.
Yeah, the nice thing about the PBA is that anyone can do it. You don't need to be a fire professional or a firefighter. You just have to be a landowner, a community member, or volunteer. Anyone. You want to show up with sturdy boots, no steel-toed boots, no rubber boots. Steel-toed boots get hot, rubber boots melt. Good gloves always help, long sleeves, and a good attitude, really. That's the most important thing. So anyone can help out on a PBA burn. It's kind of the best part about it.
It's changed our relationship to the forest. I feel like we've learned a lot about trees. Never enough. I have so much to learn about them, but yeah, it's been quite the adventure to live here instead of a city.
There are specifics when you can and cannot burn. We work with CAL FIRE very closely to make sure we have all the proper permits. As a landowner, you have the right to burn your own property, but you have to do so safely and within the regulations that CAL FIRE sets. So the Prescribed Burn Association helps landowners navigate that process, make sure they have the correct permits in place, all the inspections, and are burning on a permissible burn day. Broadcast burns, they're a lot bigger of I wouldn't say an ordeal, but a process. There's a lot more moving parts than a pile burn. So having good containment lines, which could be a road, it can be hand line, it could be a dozer line. In grass, it could just be wet line, just spraying down the grass so it's wet. But we need to have solid delineated boundaries that the unit is within. But the main thing is being able to accurately measure the weather.
Temperature, minimum is 50, desired is 70, with our hot being at 85. We're going to get an early start today, and we think we can stay within that prescription. Our humidity, 55 on the cool, 30 desired, and 20 on the hot.
We want the right amount of humidity in the air, which we call the RH. We want the right wind speed and direction. We want proper temperature. We don't want it to be too hot. We don't want 90 degrees and low humidity. We won't be able to safely control that fire. So, ideally we're looking for something with light winds, maybe, 2 to 3 miles an hour to give the flame some push. Maybe humidities ranging anywhere from 60 RH to 30 RH. We want to be able to ascertain the the right weather conditions using a variety of tools to make sure we can put fire on the ground safely and keep it that way. So this is the test fire, and what we're doing is we're lighting a small area of the burn unit, and we're going to see how the fire reacts. We're getting pretty good fire behavior. Flames aren't too tall, 2-3 feet, just what we want. Looks like they're consuming well. It's not spreading rapidly. The smoke is lifting straight up, which is what we want. We want good smoke dispersion so we don't have smoke lay down into the communities and affect people. So right now this test fire is looking excellent, which means we're going to feel really good to proceed with the rest of our burn. So when we're looking for a site to prescribe burn, it comes down to a number of things. Mostly we want some place that's strategic to wildfire protection. So in this case, this unit borders numerous private lands, numerous homeowners' properties. So we did a fuels reduction thinning project on it a few months ago, and now we're burning it. So that's going to offer quite a bit of just wildfire protection to the homeowners and the community here. And then the other thing that goes into selecting it is really just the feasibility of the site. This site had been able to receive fuels thinning through a grant project. It had 2 roads on its border, which meant we only had to dig a small amount of hand line to fully contain it, which makes it a lot easier to safely prep and secure and make it ready to burn. One of the big logistical and tactical problems we usually have to solve is water transport and water availability for a prescribed burn, especially of this size. We want to make sure that all our containment lines, we say plumbed, so we want to make sure they're adequately plumbed, which just means that we have fire hose with water that could be pumped up and down those lines in the event of anything spotting or slopping over, but then also for when we complete ignitions and we need to mop up the burn and extinguish everything, we need to have an adequate supply of water and equipment to do that, because the last thing we want to do is light off and burn a bunch of land and then just leave it. A lot of escapes happen during the day after the burn or the later stages of the burn, after things have consumed. Little embers like to creep over and scoot away. So we want to make sure we have enough water and hose to adequately extinguish anything we feel that could threaten the containment of the burn. So that usually involves setting up pumps down in rivers and creeks and pumping water up, or setting up engines and water tenders in order to have that flow of water available. The mopping up of the burn unit is really the dirty work of the whole thing. The firing only takes a few hours, but now we've got to make sure we get all the burning material extinguished, and that can take several days. It requires a lot of people working hard throughout the night, even sometimes, and just a lot of water specifically. So the logistics of having enough engines and hoses and places for those engines to get water when they run out is an important cornerstone of making a burn happen and keeping it safe. And in terms of a return interval for putting another fire down, or how long the landscape is going to be what we would say, fire safe or fire wise, it really depends on the environment. Brush may start to come back in 3-5 years, so that might be a good entry date for another burn. In other ecosystems, it may be 10 or 20 years. It really depends on where you live and what species you have in your unit. The scale of the work that needs to be done is very large. So right now we're kind of in the beginning stages of getting the prescribed fire movement up and off the ground a bit more. It's going to take a lot of work to build the capacity where we can take on larger and larger chunks of land. It'd be great to burn 2,000 acres, but we just don't have the capacity for that yet. We're not a full-fledged fire agency. So starting small, 15 acres, 30 acres, it gives us a chance to make a difference for homeowners. It gives us a chance to refine our skills. We get people trained, we get experience both in the burning aspect and the coordinating and logistics side of things. So there's a lot of benefits to starting small and growing as you can. I think the crowning achievement for me would be to see a point in time when just the use of fire is a part of rural living.
Oh yeah, everybody's starting to like it now. We might as well go to a full-blown concert. Okay. We've been trying to do this for a long time, and then we have a land management team. But this time now we can put Winham Sam, a good fire on the ground for the first time in a long time. So it's a good day. I want to thank everybody and bless everybody, Kodo Yampe, for being here. Keep us safe. And allow Kano Sam, Old Man Fire, just to move real slowly and eat as much as he wants, because I know he's hungry. We haven't put him on the ground in a long time. And so just bless us, Kodo Yampe. Thank you. Amen. Or whatever. Oh! Okay. Spin for me. Go ahead. Keep going around. You're good. Good, good, good.
Nice. What does that mean besides dog?
Mr. Beavers, go ahead.
I love it.
The camera lady. Spin around. Gotta get all you. Just lift it all. Spin for me. And so, and where you want me to go? Down the line?
Yeah, so we'll start the fence line,
Yep.
and then we'll get who's gonna be my second light.
Brandy?
Tip it and make sure it's gonna work.
Yes, sir.
Open the bin a little bit for me. I would light the fuel on the ground. Yep. Really easy way.
Light it on the ground?
Do you want a video or a picture?
Then what I do, just light that?
Yep. Just put this in.
And just go? Here we go.
All right.
Am I doing it right?
Yep. You're just gonna drag it. You just want a nice even line, right?
It gets emotional too. Believe me, I wanted to cry down there when I was talking. It's something special. Something real special. Especially to get fire on the ground. That's the first time that we've been able to do this as our own tribe. It's been a long road, long journey. Our ancestors used to do this yearly and have all of our traditional territory looking like a park, you know, and then after contact, land management, you know, the Forest Service's way of managing a forest wasn't really managing the forest, as we could see. And remember, the campfire came through here, and this is our traditional territory. Campfire burnt 90% of our traditional territory at one time. So we were left with 10%, and then the North Complex came and burnt another 5%. So 5% of our traditional territory is the only 5% that's been untouched by wildfire. So. This is a way we can manage it and keep it like that and keep our ancestors happy and keep Kano Sam, Old Man Fire. You know, he's always hungry. He needs that food. So this is a way to feed him, you know, keep him happy.
Skip ahead now.
Do you need to loosen your vent a little bit?
How to do it?
Turn to the left. Try that.
Are you tired like you used to? Oh, now we're getting things like
This is the first cultural burn I've ever been on, and it sounds like it's the first one that the tribe here has done in a very long time. And I think that's a big deal that fire is getting returned for the first time, and that there's collaboration between tribal and non-tribal people and organizations to make it happen. I think we could see from the ceremony at the beginning, this is a very significant moment for them. And so it's just special to be a part of that. I mean, I'm an outside observer, but it's cool.
But we'll generate a little bit of heat. We'll get them a bigger buffer,
Gotcha.
and then we can start taking it down the hill, and we'll get some.
Yeah, we'll get going.
We'll get going.
I know that.
Matt has done a wonderful job of just kind of bringing everybody together, all the different entities that we have working here. Everybody work together seamlessly. It's very cool that the practice itself is so rooted that no matter the patch on your sleeve, no matter the tribe you're from, no matter the color of your skin, any of that, the practice itself is the same.
I worked for the Forestry Service. I started back in 2008 when the lightning complex fire started, and all the stuff I've learned from the Forest Service, and then through our cultural practices, our traditional practices, is that Mother Nature loves fire. You know, we don't love it so much, but Mother Nature does. A lot of plants down here need fire, and the Konkow area is our ancestral grounds, but it's also, I've spent a lot of time personally up here in Konkow. And it's kind of, one of the things I do at home is when I'm just overwhelmed with everything, I come up here to Konkow, I go to the creeks and I kind of wash in the creeks and just ground myself up here. So the ties to the land are really strong up here. I come from here. And so it is absolutely a privilege to be able to be up here tending our land and taking care of things up here. So I'm pretty excited all this came about, and I'm just happy to be able to help, and slinging fire is pretty fun.
It is a special time. To put fire on the ground is to wake up the ancestors, and our word for fire is sa. And so when you heard us, I said a prayer, kano sa, is old man fire. And you know, he's been asleep for so long, he's hungry. You know, you let him come out here and do a cultural burning and pay him, you let him eat, you know, let him eat. He's very symbolic. He's been around since the beginning of time as well. He is part of us, and I feel that after all the wildfires that happened in this area, the Camp Fire, North Complex Fire, and Dixie, I feel that non-natives are a little bit scared of fire, almost terrified of fire. So there are still limits to doing fire, such as we had to perform this fire before May 1st. If we didn't do it before May 1st, we would have to go through a bunch of red tape and pay a lot of permit fees. People who would be on the fire would have to have certifications. By doing it before then and working with CAL FIRE and other agencies that do have certs, we allowed our community members who don't have, a lot of these community members, they've never seen fire, or they've been on a burn before. They didn't have to have certs. They were out here doing what their ancestors, doing something cultural, learning cultural ways, or trying to re-establish cultural ways into their way of life today. So there's a difference between prescribed burn and a cultural fire. Most of the time prescribed burns burn hotter than a cultural fire. A cultural fire kind of burns like how we're burning right now. Creeps real slow. There is no hurry, and the flames aren't getting too high. So what our ancestors would do, they would just light a fire walking down, because you got to remember this wasn't as congested with brush. Because as you can see, look out there, you can see how this is right here where the burned. So you can sit back and you can see, you can see the whole plant of the sea. You can see what's around. You can see, look over there where it's not burnt. That grass, you can't see 6 inches below the plant. You see? This there, down here, you can see down in here. You can see the root. You can see all that stuff down in here. You go up there where it's not burnt and you can't see. It's just, it'll also clear it out so the damn rattlesnake doesn't get us. One of the number one killers pre-contact were rattlesnakes. You get in there in the blackberry bushes. That's why we also had it open, so we could see them little guys that come up and bite you. This way you could see them. People gather and you could see, and all that stuff you can't see. You walk through there, you step on a grandfather and he'll bite you, and next thing you know, you're gone. But it opens it up, helps our people. It helps with gathering. Like I said, all of our medicine plants. You see all this. This is all native plants. You see it, notice? Make baskets out of it. It's all native. But you see how much it's overgrown. It also, with the fire, put minerals back in the ground, helping native plants that haven't been around like they used to be. Now when we burn, hopefully those native plants that are in the ground, or the seeds have been down in there, now they'll start popping up instead of the broom and the invasive species of plants that were brought over here that kind of just overgrows. So you see that broom up there with the yellow flower. Underneath all that broom, we have dogwood trees. Once that broom's gone, then them dogwoods could come out, and we use dogwoods for ceremonial purpose. Our male dancers use it for their horns when they dance. Their dancing horns. We use dogwood is a very special plant, so hopefully that also, it brings back our native plants, which we use in our native ceremonies, which we use traditionally, and our ancestors will be happy. Wake up to a good burn. I won't forget this because it took me a long time to do this. A long time. A lot of negative energy has passed by me or been thrown at me while trying to organize this, and we still made it happen. We're still out here doing it, making it in a good positive way for our tribe to move forward. That's how I see it.
Something that you don't know, the crowd went wild. We feel lucky, very lucky. It's also real difficult to see our forest be so harmed by the fire. I mean, that is probably a trauma that we're going to process every single time we walk out here.
Part of the reason we kind of went down that road with the prescribed burn and with the grant to thin the forest and the things we did to harden the house, part of that was there's some things in our control. I mean, there's some things that are completely out of our control. A guy pushing a burning car into the ditch is not in our control. But it was in our control to harden the property and make it, reduce the risk as much as we possibly could. And so we were, I'd say the last 6 years, we were pretty aggressive about that. And, a very subjective sense is that it paid off in a sense. Did it exactly? I don't know. But I think it contributed to this place still standing.
And to our neighbors standing.
Yeah, and everything above
them
is green.
Yeah.
From here on up.
This way, no.
Yeah, everything below is burned.
Yeah.
So, and this strip, north-south. So, what role our efforts played in that, I don't know. I think it did play a role. These guys, Dave and Dallas can probably answer that a little better.
They did all the right pieces to keep their home safe: metal building, thinning, prescribed fire, and it's unfortunate that there are homes that are next to them and down below them. A lot of the homes down below them that didn't make it, and there's a lot of reasons for that, but then their home did.
They did a very good job with their home hardening. First of all, metal siding, covered vents, very well protected, metal roof, all the gutters and stuff were covered. Cement at the base of the house, no vegetation right against the house. And then the defensible space, which is 100 feet out, they did a tremendous amount of thinning and removed all the heavies. They had a splitter going here when the first day I was here, so they split all the wood, even though it was just pine, and they donated it to breweries and different people that were able to use that for fuel. And then when we came in here and did the prescribed fire, we got rid of the ground fuels, the litter, the oak and pine needles and all that stuff, and more of the medium kind of fuels that were still there. And that helps to decrease the chance of a ground fire. The ground fire is usually supported by a fire that's also on the ground. So not having that ground fire, or as intense of a ground fire, is what helps get that fire to drop out of the canopy protecting trees, protecting the structure as well, making it defendable where, this is a place where a firefighter could survive, and some of the other properties and different people that don't have those elements of mainly defensible space, it's just not a place where they're going to go and try to defend the house.
If someone's interested in prescribed fire, it really depends on where you are, but I would start with looking into any natural resource organizations that your county may have. Giving a call to your local fire department and asking about the regulations and laws around prescribed burning is a great place to start. They can hopefully explain to you what permits you need and what they're looking for. In California, right now, prescribed burn associations have started to really become more and more established. So if you're in Northern California, or California in general, it's worth exploring the internet and seeing if your county has a prescribed burn association. That's a great place to start. Those associations can help you with figuring out the permits, the prep, the mapping, and maybe help fund it a little.
Cultural burns have been part of my ancestors' way of life since the beginning of the time. It's part of you. It's in your DNA. It's part of our culture. Prescribed burns, we're trying to fill that void of not having cultural burns because they were outlawed. We couldn't do them, and so they had to have some way of dealing with the underbrush. And they said, well, look at the California Indians, how they used to. Let's see if we could do it somehow. But now we're doing it again, And so it's kind of a powerful partnership because you have two different type of mind thinking, but you put that together, and it could be something powerful that can make the world better. Could make it could help climate. It could do a lot for the forest. It's educating both worlds, if that makes any sense.